We're with one of the top baseball programs in all the country with an incredible coach, one of the fastest risers in collegiate baseball, the 2023 Assistant Coach of the Year, now the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils. We have Cory Mascara here.
New Duke baseball coach Cory Mascara.
Cory Mascara.
Cory Mascara.
If I'm being honest, like my goals are always the highest level goals possible. Like I'm not trying to go out there and be average. Beyond baseball here. Like so we want to win national championships and we want to perform on the field at the highest level. So growth, the grit, the gratitude, they lead to success. They lead to greatness in life. I use baseball as a vehicle for my guys to be the best version of themselves. So that's why it aligns with Dukes. They're going to be super successful in life. They're going to be, CEOs. They're going to run their own companies. They're going to be super successful, and they're going to be better husbands. They're going to be better fathers. And why I do what I do is because it's beyond baseball. It's bigger than baseball, right?
Welcome back to another episode of On the Subject. We have a special guest today. We are in the heart of Durham, North Carolina. Can you see where we are today? Look at this. We're with one of the top baseball programs in all the country with an incredible coach, one of the fastest risers in collegiate baseball, the 2023 Assistant Coach of the Year, now the head coach of the Duke Blue Devils. We have Cory Mascara here. Thank you so much for being here today on the subject. We're so excited to chat.
I'm thrilled you guys came down. It's awesome. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, and it's an honor to be here. Honor to be part of such a big program. We have opening night coming in just 1 week. By the time you hear this, we might have already played the Maine Black Bears, but please come out to Jack Combs Field. Incredible place to watch a game. But we want to start with your story. What brought you into baseball? You have such a cool playing experience. You went to multiple schools. Tell us your story and what got you into coaching?
Yeah, well, I don't even know where to start with this, but if I really went back and looked, if you asked me in high school, I would have wanted to play basketball. But I wasn't talented enough.
You are pretty tall, though.
Yeah, my hoops team was pretty good, and I don't know that I was, my role was get 5,000, lay out for a loose ball. If I shot, I got taken out. But essentially for me, it was really my dad. Like my dad he spent a lot of time with me. It was kind of like our father-son experience. We're just always taking ground balls, always playing, and just kind of fell in love with it at an early age. And for me, sports was like how I learned life, really. It's how I learned how to compete. It's how I learned how to do everything. And I was at Siena College, and things probably weren't going exactly how I envisioned them to go. I had a lot of pitching coaches in a short amount of time. But, I say this to the players all the time. Like, my experience at Siena was I wouldn't trade it for anything because I learned – it kind of brought me to, what I really want to do in life. It brought me to – learning about myself, betting on myself, and I also met my wife there.
Oh, amazing.
So my entire experience at Siena was pretty awesome, but it really wasn't going the way I saw baseball going. And for me, I felt like I had an opportunity that I could impact some kids and coach. And so when I decided I was going to transfer, I basically tried to find a program that really understood winning because I knew that I wanted to coach. And I got recruited by Franklin Pierce at a high school. And when I got recruited, they didn't really have a baseball field. They were just kind of starting up. They weren't very good yet. And then in my time in college, they took off like a rocket ship. They had gone to 3 Division II College World Series. And I was kind of dumbfounded as to how it was happening. Because it's like this school in the middle of nowhere. They really had no business being good, but they were awesome. And I was like, that's a guy I want to go play for. So then ultimately, I went there on a recruiting trip, and at the Division II level, you can work guys out. So I went, and I was coming off an arm injury. I went to go throw a bullpen, and they didn't have a catcher, so Coach Loiseau actually geared up and caught my bullpen, and he was one of the coaches, and I loved him, and I loved Coach King, and I just felt like they had this gritty winner's mentality, and I just remember thinking, if I'm going to do this thing, if I'm going to really coach, then I need to be around winners, and that's kind of how I did it, and then Coach Loiseau ended up getting a head job at Southern New Hampshire, which was in my hometown. And I grew up working their baseball camps. So me and my best friend Colin, who you got a chance to meet.
Love Colin.
Yeah, he's a great dude. And we worked those camps growing up, and they were really bad at baseball. They were historically bad. I think they had 80 years of baseball at the school, never had a winning season. The year before Coach Loiseau took over, they had the worst winning percentage, Division I, II, or III. So we always grew up working their camps as players, as high school players, being like, this place is awesome. How can this place not be good? Da, 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 da. And so he got the job, and he needed a pitching coach. So I was in my 5th year, and while I was still in school, he called me up and asked me if I wanted to go over there, and the rest is kind of history. I just sold out to being a coach ever since. And really, like, the reason I can still do it is my wife's a saint. Like, you know, all these years to get to this point, like, you know, like, she's had to sacrifice a lot and put up with a lot because I'm a little bit psychotic, you know.
Well, you have the passion. And actually, there's two things I want to dig into there quickly. So one, incredible, you had a transfer experience. This was pre-transfer portal, pre-free movement. And I imagine in such, you wanted to not have to sit out a year, and going D1 to D2, you're allowed to transfer play right away. Is it interesting? Do you probably have more empathy for a lot of the players now with their transfer ability since you went through it yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, look, like, I'm actually one of those people that doesn't hate the transfer rule on a lot of levels.
You've embraced it, which I think is great. You got to embrace innovation.
I think at the end of the day, like, the college sports landscape is wild right now.
Wild West.
And I think if you you don't have the ability to be adaptable and think outside the box in this new world, you're going to get left behind. You know, the chaos of what we live in today, if you don't have vision, you're done. And it's challenging. It's hard. It's there's a lot of different, you know, things that are going to be thrown your way. But I don't have a problem with the transfer portal. Some kids need an opportunity to play. Some kids, maybe they went to a level that they were overlooked and they really performed, and they want to see if they can, you know, push the limits. So I think it works both ways, you know. A lot of people think, oh, well, the smaller schools are going to get robbed. But, like, I think they should be playing up on trying to get kids to, like, if I was at a smaller school, I would recruit all the best kids in my area. Even if they were, like, say I was a small level Division I or a high level Division II, I would recruit all the best players, even if they were getting recruited by ACC and SEC schools, for a multitude of reasons. But my pitch would be, hey, come here for a year or two and play.
Yeah,
like, play and be a guy and then go somewhere else. Or if I would develop that relationship, so if they went somewhere else and weren't playing and I needed a place to go, they'd come. And then I would develop relationships with other schools. And I'd say, hey, man, like, you know, I got a good player, you know, he's probably going to go to the ACC. Like, you should give him a look. Hey, you got anybody that, you know, needs more playing time, let me know. And that's how I would play it, you know, because I think that there's a world where you can be really good in that space. And on top of that, like, one of the things that's getting lost, specifically in our sport in baseball, is there's so many good junior college players. And, like, schools like Duke, like, we can't get junior college players. There's a lot of schools that they can't take junior college players. But there's some schools that can give great academic packages for junior college players. And there's some phenomenal players, because in our sport, you could see guys all the time that, you know, maybe in high school they're, you know, 6'4" righty, and he, you know, maybe he's 180 pounds. He hasn't really grown to his body. And he's like 82, 84. And then all of a sudden, 2 years later, he put on 25 pounds. He's like 93, 95, and he's got a good breaking ball. You're like, how did that guy get there? That happens every single day. It happens nonstop in our sport. And it's the same thing for hitters, you know, like, well, I coached Nick Kurtz at Wake Forest. Like, he was recruited there initially as a pitcher, you know, and just won the American League Rookie of the Year award. Like, you don't really know how it's going to turn out, right? Like, there's so many guys that, like, maybe they make an approach change, they make a swing adjustment change, they get bigger, they get faster, they get stronger. And in our sport, really unlike any other, you see guys that come from nowhere. You know, you watch a big league game right now, and, like, you got guys like Blake Trinan. Initially, I think, went to Arkansas and was on the club team. Then he went to, like, South Dakota State, you know? There's so many players, though. Like, Jacob deGrom went to Stetson as a shortstop, you know? And we can go on and on and on, you know? Like, everyone talks, like, look, the best pitcher on the planet, it's, you know, maybe it's Paul Skeens, you know, maybe it's Tariq Skubal, right? But you look at both those guys, and I think they had, like, 2 scholarships out of high school.
One went to Air Force, one went to Seattle University
For sure.
out of high school.
Yeah. And even after going to Seattle U, he was like a 9th rounder. Yep. So, like, it's Seattle U, he's a 9th rounder. It wasn't like he was a superstar. He's the best pitcher in the world.
He's amazing. He just got $32 million yesterday.
And so, yeah, like, so that's my point is, like, you don't really see that much in the other big sports. Like, it's not as common.
No.
I mean, it happens. It happens a little bit in basketball and football sometimes, but it's not common.
There's less late bloomers.
You know?
Baseball, you could have that one switch. And I think, well, we're curious, how many D3 players do you have on the roster this year? You have a couple, correct?
We have at least 4. We have at least 4 arms. At least.
So how did you find them?
I mean, honestly, just in the portal. You know, some of the.
So how do you evaluate the portal?
Oh, there's so much to this. So we try to get as much data as we can. We try to look for like what their pitch usages are, what their pitch shapes are. We watch a lot of video, and specifically, like, depends on pitcher or hitter, right? We'll start with pitching, right? Like the first thing we're looking at is like we look at their basic data, right? Their basic stats, right? Like the biggest thing for me is walk rate. Because the strike zone, well, the strike zone is the strike zone no matter what level you're at, right? Yeah. So, like, it depends on who, like, you could always say, oh, like, his numbers are good because he didn't face anybody. Well, the plate's 17 inches last time I checked everywhere you go. So, like, for me, the first thing I look at is walk rate. Yeah. If he's in the zone, you got a shot, right? Second thing we look at is we try to get TrackMan data and see what his stuff actually is. And then we watch their delivery and we say, okay, where's the low-hanging fruit that we can impact? You know, is it a rubber side change? Is it a delivery adjustment? Is it a pitch usage adjustment? Do we think we can add pitches? Do we think we can change his arsenal? And then we say, okay, if we do those things, what do we project his stuff out to be? You know, and how are we going to get there? So we just reverse engineer it. And then we're like, okay, after we're done working with him, what could he look like? And then we try to put it into our system and see, okay, will that work? And so then you can try to figure out like, hey, how are you going to work with this guy, right? So that's what we do with pitchers. With hitters, first thing we're looking at is like, you know, what's their swing rate in zone? You know, do they leave the zone? So it goes back to like the Mariners' philosophy right now. The Mariners are having success, but their entire organizational philosophy is dominate the zone. And at the end of the day, like baseball can be really simplified down to like who owns the strike zone, the pitcher or the hitter, right? So for me, it's like always trying to figure out who can actually own the strike zone, you know? And then you're looking at, okay, you know, how does he hit on fastballs north of 90 miles an hour? Like what's his X of velos? Like, what, you know, what's his contact rate? What's his chase rate? You know, how is he on breaking balls? Then you start talking to him like, does he have an approach? Is he hunting breaking balls? Has he seen enough breaking balls? Is he fastball adjust? So like you make your evaluation, and the thing about the portal is we have so much video, we have data, right? So, and they're playing college players, so you can really evaluate it and break it down. So then once you break it down, then you talk to the player and you're like, okay, what's your strategy? What are you thinking? Yeah. Because then you could say, all right, well, will what we're trying to do actually work for this guy? And then obviously here, a big part of it is, can we get him into school? You know, because we don't take online classes, like we don't take online transfer classes.
Well, so like you said too, there's no junior college transfer.
Junior college is like, I don't even know when the last time we had a junior college player at Duke. It's been that long.
No, it's I was lucky enough to go from junior college to Penn. It's very rare. And I always talk about that with folks is that, hey, you got to make sure you're dialed with all your credits because it's really hard to transfer from these top schools. When you explain the portal to the fans out there, especially someone who's not new to or not as nascent with it, is it literally just a website portal where you can see every single player that's transferred? And does the player have to put in all their information and sell themselves, or is it a lot more self-explainable than we would think?
No, you have to kind of dig a little bit. Like you have to search on Twitter, try to find their information. Most kids now, like if they're going in the portal, they have a Twitter or an Instagram.
So page. Twitter would be the top social you would look to.
Well, yeah, because generally speaking, in their header, they'll put their phone number or email. Yeah, generally, like they'll be like, "Hey, just hit the portal," and their number and email's there. So like, if you see a kid go in, you know, and there's a lot of variations to it too. Like you might know their agent, you might know their previous coach, you might know their travel ball coach, you might know the name. So we have a lot of areas that we can attack with trying to figure it out. But yeah, there's plenty of times when we have a lot of guys on this team where we would just be sitting there staring at the portal. The name would go in and we'd start scrambling to try to figure out how we could contact him because we wouldn't even know who he was or if he was going to go in. You know what I mean?
It's so exciting. So when you think about the changing scape of college baseball, how do you divvy your time between high school and transfer recruiting?
Yeah, so it's a lot of it, it's different at every school, right? Like, but here we have very rigorous academic standards. Okay,
it's an incredible school, and that's one thing that I think we should highlight is like Duke is a Ivy League school. Duke is a level school. It's an ACC, I know. So for any of the haters out there, in the most recent rankings, is ranked 7th in the country in U.S. News. It's incredible. It's better than half of the Ivy League, and you play in the ACC.
Yeah, and so like because of that, right? We really had to be strategic. In order for us to get a guy in, you're looking at like 6 APs, 1250 is like the standard.
That's pretty tough.
You know, and so from the high school standpoint, there are plenty of those guys. Now the beauty of it is it's a great brand, so we can recruit nationally.
Unbelievable brand.
And the other beauty of it is like we don't need to bring in 20 high school kids, right? So for us, like our average high school class is going to be somewhere between 8 and 12. I'd say the average being 10, right? But that's going to be kind of what we do every year. And then grad portal is really important for us because it's easier to get grad guys in here than it is to get the undergrad. So for us, like the grad piece is very important, right? So I think we'll have 3 to 4 grad guys every year. And then there'll be some undergraduate transfers, but it's not as easy because we don't take certain credits. We don't take online classes.
Yep.
Our window of getting undergraduate transfers in here is a much smaller window. So it closes, I think this past year, the school's undergraduate admissions portal closed on the 23rd of June.
You were here, what, for 3 days? Or?
Yeah, something like that. But they extended it for me. They gave me a chance. You know, otherwise, I don't know how we'd be practicing right now.
Well, I love this. And like one thing I want to touch on, before we get into more of what you're doing at Duke is you have an incredible coaching career so far. You've been at so many illustrious programs. Obviously, we believe in Duke above all else, but you've been at Wake Forest, you've been at Maryland, you've been at a variety of other stops. Can you tell us more about how you navigated those changes and what was able to gain from each program you stopped at?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I mean, I think for starters, it started at Southern New Hampshire with Scotty. You know, we were both young. I think he was 27 as a head coach, and I think I was like 22 or 23. But like we didn't really know what we were doing at that point. So a lot of what we did was just a ton of effort and grit. We had a lot of enthusiasm and energy. So we just stayed at the field all day. And that was one of the greatest things for us is like we learned a lot through trial and error. Yeah. And we were very confident and we were naive. So we just did a lot and it went well. And then he obviously turned that place into a powerhouse. I think he went to like 6 College World Series at Division II level. Yeah. But like that was really eye-opening for me is the beauty of working with him at such a young age. His enthusiasm and energy is infectious, and he empowered me to go coach. And we were really just like best friends having fun and just trying to win. And that's all it was. So we made a lot of mistakes, but we learned a lot by doing. Then I coached at Binghamton for a year. And the year at Binghamton was really impactful because Ryan Herba, who's still there, the recruiting coordinator, hitting coach, was a great mentor to me. He taught me a lot about recruiting and strategy. We would stay up all night just talking about like ways to script phone calls, ways to, identify players, build a relationship with coaches. So he probably had the greatest impact in like how I created my recruiting style. It was a really huge asset in my life and really impacted me at a young age. I went back to SNU, continued that with Scotty. We had some success. That was fun. And then I went to St. John's. And then Ed Blankmeyer, I always call him like the Yoda of baseball because he's so wise. He just has so much baseball knowledge. And he was a real blessing for me and really elevated my career because he empowered me again to do a lot of things. And he always let me work, right? Like he didn't micromanage me. But what he did do was give me a lot of like critiques, criticism, constructive criticism after the fact. So like I'd go out and I'd have the confidence to do whatever. And then obviously I'd make mistakes and then he'd kind of break it down for me on everything from like, practice planning to pitch calling to recruiting to you name it, and he's in the Hall of Fame. Like he coached Team USA baseball, like 3 different stints. He's coached Hall of Famers, big leaguers. He's truly a legend. And so that was really helpful. And then I went to Maryland, and Maryland again was a lot like SNU in the sense that, Rob Vaughn was a first-year head coach. We were really good friends. That's why I went there. We were both young. And the cool part about that is like we just got to troubleshoot ideas and throw things at the wall. And it was it was very like a creative space, like we were always trying to do new things and try to think outside the box with everything we did, from like our visits to, and how we were, recruiting players to where we were recruiting players to our strategy from like practice planning, So that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed coaching with him. And again, it was more of like a creative process. And then that got me to the point where like when I came to Wake, I had to always like be like very adaptable and like a go-getter at all these other places. And at Wake, we had all this information and technology, and we had so many resources that I'd never been exposed to. And there it was a lot of like learning what a lot of this stuff meant and like trying to like galvanize the people to understand like how we can do it. And, analytics gets a really bad rep in baseball, But I think a lot of times it gets a bad rep because the coaches don't really have a say in like what's going on with the analytics. And so for me, like I didn't know what any of this stuff meant. So we put together an analytics team, and I basically tried to have them explain it to me through my eyes. And so we started using a lot of the stats and the data to like how I saw the game, and we started quantifying it differently. So that got me really versed in a lot of that. And then, got exposed to a lot of things with biomechanics and, high level coaching. So that was super helpful there. And now I'm basically learning how to be a head coach. Thank God I have Skip, because that's Scotty. We call him Skip, but because he was a skip.
I love the way that you treat people. It's incredible, and it shows how infectious and genuine you are. Talk about that transition a bit, because going from pitching coach to head coach, it's a really exciting opportunity and like really impressive what you've been able to do in such a quick time. Did you know you always wanted to be a head coach? Was that always a dream of yours?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, like anything in life, like you're trying to. Like, I tell our guys all the time, they gotta dream big. Like I'm a big believer that what you see in your mind, you can hold in your hand. So like we talk about this a lot, and yeah, I mean, I think if I'm being honest, like my goals are always the highest level goals possible. Yeah. Like I'm not trying to go out there and be average. I think a lot of times people put a governor on success, and they're afraid to be successful. People talk about a fear of failure. I think sometimes people have a fear of success too, and
sabotage themselves.
Yeah, and I think, look, like if you want to be great at anything, you're going to have to fail. I've 100%. Failed plenty of times. I'm going to fail more, but I don't think you can worry about that. Like if you want to get to the end game, it's like Shawshank Redemption, right? Tim Roberts had to crawl through a tunnel of stuff, Yeah. So like I think that's how life is. Like sometimes you just got to believe it and know that it's going to happen, and embrace all the adversity and pitfalls along the way, because you're asking for it. Like if you want to be the best, like things are being sent in your way as challenges to overcome. I get corny sometimes with like a lot of different like sayings and stuff, but smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. You know what I mean? Like, so you, at the end of the day, like, how do you really know how good you are if you haven't really dealt with anything? And so I think you got to embrace it. Just like you got to embrace the transfer portal, you got to embrace NIL, you got to embrace high academic rigor, you got to embrace like not having the right guys, or having a team, or not knowing what you're doing, or how to make the right calls. Like you got to embrace all of it, and you're like Kobe Bryant said this too, right? Like he's like, I don't believe in failure, like, because all right, so I fail, I got to get up the next day and I have it again. I win, I got to get up the next day. Like what is it? It's just, we're just on this continuum, right?
Learning. You don't win or lose, you win or you learn.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what it was like to be part of the number one team in the country. That's a really, really difficult thing to achieve, and you were part of that. What made that team hit that pinnacle, and how are you able to learn from that and try to achieve that again?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it was adversity, right? Like those guys, their freshman year didn't make the ACC tournament. Their freshman and sophomore years, those guys on that team that were juniors and seniors, there was only 2 teams that didn't make the ACC tournament, and they were one of those 2 teams. And so, like they were hardened. They came together as a group. They all could have transferred. They didn't. They stayed together, and it was there was a lot of pride for those guys. They got really close. They held each other accountable at a crazy level. Most of that team was there like together. Like they had come up through the system. They had played as freshmen. They had played as sophomores, so they got experience, and they took their lumps. And then we supplemented the team with 5 really impactful transfers that all made a gigantic contribution, and we hit home runs on all of them. Like Sean Sullivan was an All-American coming from Northwestern. And the interesting thing about every transfer we got in that group, they didn't leave their previous school because they didn't like the school or they weren't playing. Like Sean Sullivan left Northwestern because they got a new coach and the whole team left, and he was like the last man standing. And he's like, all right, well, maybe I should go somewhere, because he didn't have any of his teammates there. That's why he left. He liked Northwestern. He had a good experience. He was the Friday guy, Mike Massey and Bennett Lee left Tulane because they got a new coach, and a lot of players left. So that's why they left. And they were the catcher and the pitcher, and they were buddies, and they came here, or they came to Wake. Cole Rowland was an Ivy League guy, and he was a grad guy. So Ivy League grad guys can't play.
I experienced that firsthand. You got to leave.
And then same thing with with Justin Johnson, he was a Lafayette transfer grad guy.
Oh, that's a great Patriot League.
So the reality is, like, all those kids left and they all made major impacts. Like, Justin Johnson was first team All ACC. Sean Sullivan was first team All ACC. Bennett Lee was All ACC. Mike Massey was on Team USA and led the country in strikeouts per 9. And Cole Long led our team in ERA. So, like, they all came in, they fit into the culture, they had the right mentality, and they just supplemented what we already had going on. And they really created a really unique brotherhood that was a really fun thing to be a part of, and I'll never forget. And I still talk to a lot of those guys. I love a lot of those guys. Like, I love all of them, but, like, it was a fun group. But I think it really starts with the struggles early in their career, embracing it, and kind of circling the wagons and not, like, running from it, but embracing it. It hardened them, you know.
You got to keep getting better and learning through everything. And one thing that you definitely touched on briefly, but I want to go back to, is the family commitment. You know, you went to multiple spots. You have 3 kids. Talk about how incredible your family has been at supporting your journey. And, you know, especially when you get into, you know, whether it's professional sports, coaching at the highest levels, you have signed up for, hey, I might have to move my family. What's that been like, and how have you been able to do such a great job? And congrats on building an incredible family.
Thanks. It's honestly, all the credit goes to my wife, but it starts with the support from my parents in the beginning. They just believed in me, and they got me to believe that I could do anything. So it starts there, right? And they were very supportive. And then throughout this coaching journey, it's really been my wife. Like, she's the one that's always driving me, pushing me, holding me to higher standards and everything, like literally everything. Somehow, I talked about Coach Blankmeyer. Like, I gravitate towards people that have high standards, and they're not afraid to give you harsh criticism. I'm like a glutton for punishment with that. So, like, my wife and Blanky are probably the 2 people that are, like, the hardest on me, you know. But they're, like, 2 of my most important people in my life, obviously. So that's one. She holds me to a really high standard in everything. She's incredibly supportive. You know, early in my coaching career, she hated baseball because I didn't make that much money. I worked nonstop. I was never home. And it's tough when you're, like, newlyweds and you're never, ever home and you don't really have any money. She's like, why did I marry this guy? You know what I mean? And we didn't have kids yet. And then, you know, she reluctantly moved to Maryland. And she bought into it, and we had another kid down there, and it was really hard. We were away from her family. It was challenging. But when we got to Wake, like, everything changed. Like, she became, like, diehard super fan, watches every game, goes to every game, brings the kids on the road, watches other teams play. She'll text me when guys hit the transfer portal.
Wow.
Like, it's crazy. And so I'm like, I remember, like, after the first year, I was like, babe, like, what happened? Like, what just changed? And she's like, radical acceptance. She said, you know, she's really bright. She graduated with like 2 or 3 degrees from Siena. Yeah. Super smart. She's a teacher. And
Love it. Education.
She was like elite in the field. Like, she was unbelievable, right? So she poured a lot of time and effort and her heart into her teaching. And then when she wasn't teaching anymore, she hit this, like, realization that, like, well, if you lose, I lose, and I don't like losing. So if you win, I win. And so then she just decided that she was going to do everything for our family and our team that we could be successful together. And it really changed everything for us. That's when we really started to hit our stride. But I could go on talking about my wife for hours and how she includes the kids in everything we do. She brings them to the field all the time. It's not easy to sit through with games where it's cold and you got 3 kids running around trying to manage them, but she does an unbelievable job.
I love that. That's beautiful. And how we brought a lot of these personal philosophies and building the culture of Duke baseball. Like, what defines the culture at Duke baseball, and what do you want to stand for?
It's growth, grit, and gratitude. You know,
growth, grit, and gratitude.
So for me, like, everything's about growing, as I've talked a lot about. Like, how do you deal with adversity? How do you deal with, you know, the pitfalls of life? And you're not the same person you were today that you were yesterday, right? So growth is number one. Really trying to buy into, like, Carol Dweck's growth mindset, you know, and then grit. Like, again, Angela Duckworth, book Grit, right?
Love her.
Like, at the end of the day, you know, I say this all the time, right? Like, the only difference between the expert and the beginner is the experts failed more than the beginners ever tried, right? So like,
I love that.
you know, like you have to understand that like that takes toughness. It's how you respond in the midst of adversity. Like, do you complain? Do you make excuses? Do you problem solve, right? So that's grit. And then gratitude. Like, I'm a big believer in energy and frequencies, and how you think and the words you say to yourself matter. And so the highest form of frequency from an emotional state is authenticity, right? The second highest form is gratitude. But gratitude is essential because no matter how you're feeling, if you're alive, you have something to be thankful for. So if you can always reflect and change your perspective back to gratitude, then you have a fighting chance. And so we do gratitude journals like weekly and daily here. And I talk about it all the time because I think at the end of the day, like, baseball's hard, life's hard, and it's never going to go your way. So are you growing? Are you responding with some toughness? You know, are you making excuses? And do you have gratitude for the opportunity that's been presented to you? And then with all that, like, that ties into our greater philosophy, which is kind of why I'm thankful you're here, is like, it's beyond baseball here. Like, so we want to win national championships and we want to perform on the field at the highest level. But it's like the growth, the grit, the gratitude, they lead to success. They lead to greatness in life, right? And so for us, like, when I first started this, going back to this, is like, I use baseball as a vehicle for my guys to be the best version of themselves. So that's why it aligns with Dukes, because for me, like, if we can get these guys to understand habit formation, mentality, like how to go about our day every day, how do we handle things, right? They're going to be super successful in life. They're going to be, you know, CEOs. They're going to run their own companies. They're going to be super successful, and they're going to be better husbands. They're going to be better fathers, right? So, like, for me, this whole thing and why I do what I do is because it's beyond baseball. It's bigger than baseball, right? So for me, it's the team is grit, growth, and gratitude, and like the whole reason your why, right? Your Simon Sinek why, like, why are we doing this? Is because it's bigger than baseball. It's beyond the sport of baseball, and that's why it aligns so well with what you're doing, right? My buddy hit me up and was like, hey, you should talk to this guy. And I had no idea who you were. And I went online and looked. I'm like, oh, he says the same stuff I do. That'll work. And again, like, it's like attracts like. You know, again, Sinek says this. The goal is not to do business with everybody. The goal is to do business with people who believe what you believe.
You want to be a magnet. You want to repel people who are not a good fit, and you want to attract people who are. As, you know, that actually is a perfect segue into our next question was, you know, how do you develop them off the field? I love your passion, because I think this sometimes gets overlooked when a family sends their son to you. They're looking to you to be, you know, a mentor, a leader, a second father figure to their son. How do you develop them off the field? It sounds like you're already explaining quite a bit of it. Like, what's that look like?
So we're actually trying to institute a lot of stuff. We're working on a lot of things from like brand building, right? We're going to be doing a lot of things with like real NIL, not just like giving a guy a bag of money, you know, but where they have to work through it, you know, through like social media deliverables and through brand awareness and building their personal brand. That's one avenue. Another avenue is we're trying to build out and make it scalable, but a mentorship program. We have so many alumni that are fantastic that have gone to be incredibly successful in life, and we're trying to build out a mentorship program for those guys. We're trying to find creative solutions to internships with, obviously, everyone's playing summer baseball, so we're trying to figure that out. So we're really trying not to just like say it, but like live it. And we're bringing somebody on. We can't make it quite public yet. It's going to be announced in the next 48 hours, but we're bringing somebody on that's going to help tackle all this head on and be on staff. So we're bringing in a general manager that's going to be able to help with brand building, help with NIL deals with real NIL, help with the mentorship program, get guys resumes, build out their, like, make them ready for life, you know. And, you know, again, with that too, like, we just pulled off the highest GPA in the history of Duke baseball, which had a 3.52.
Yeah. Wow, at Duke.
And a lot of our guys, like, they never would have got in here, you know, like they were
Baseball gets you in.
But even beyond that, like, normally, like, if it wasn't for the situation we were in, they wouldn't have even got in normally. So we have a lot of guys that, like, they're paying it forward because they were given an opportunity and they're running with it, you know. And so for me, I think it's all inclusive. And, you know, a lot of people talk about culture. They talk about culture. Look, for me, culture is who you are and how you show up every day. Like, I like do a lot of stuff with this, but I don't really believe in like having a talk about culture. I believe it should be like, this is who you are. This is what you stand for. This is how you show up every day. You got to live it. You got to breathe it. It's got to be who you are, and you got to hold the line on it, right? And if you're not doing that daily, then you don't have a culture. If the players don't know like what you stand for and like who you are, there is no culture, right? If they don't live it, if when you get on the guys and they don't understand why you're getting on them, you got no culture, right? So that's what it's about. And like with players, right? Like they want to be coached up. Like players want to be coached up. They don't want to just be told they're good all the time. They're not dumb. You know what I mean? Like these kids go to Duke, they're smart. Like if they're hitting 185, like, oh, you're doing good, Johnny. Like, no, I'm not. Like, I know I'm not. Don't lie to me. You know what I mean?
After the game.
And like now we're in a world where like everybody's smart. Everybody's got ChatGPT. Everybody's got WebMD. Everybody's got everything, right? So like you can't BS your way through stuff anymore.
No.
And so like it's about being real and like and showing up every day, being real with guys. You know,
I completely agree. We want to do a recruiting rapid fire questions for you. We want to go through, pick the brain again of a top level ACC head coach. What's it like recruiting in today's day and age? So we're going to rapid fire this and just speak from the heart. So first, when we talk about high school athletes, where are the top places you find them? Is it showcases, high school ball, travel ball, online? How do you find high school athletes, and what's the rough percentage of each?
Look, every single one of them has a real value, right? But if I'm being real, like things like, you know, futures games, there's everybody on the field's a dude, right? Like that's the most densely populated like
That's usually
player.
time.
Yeah, like there's everybody on the field's gonna probably play Division I baseball, right? So like it's pretty simple. You throw a rock in any direction and somebody's good. Like that's probably the easiest one. But like they're everywhere. Like Perfect Game's got stuff with WWBA and things like that, very densely populated with players. But if I'm being real, like we gotta look under different rocks because we have to really find a unique player. And so we got to go all over the place. So I'm willing to look everywhere and anywhere you can. But if we're being real, it's those densely populated places with a lot of players. You know.
Yeah. So elite travel ball and showcase events. If a player is emailing you, what would actually have you read the email? Because I'm sure you get a ton of cold emails. And is email the best way to get a hold of you, or is DMs on socials as a player?
Honestly, probably DMs on social because I don't go read it as often as I do my emails, and usually I get so inundated so much in emails. So probably
how many a day are you getting from players?
I couldn't even count. Like I wouldn't even be able to tell you. Like it's overwhelming. Like if I don't check my email for like a day, there'll be like 250 emails.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. But things that would stand out right away here specifically, like their GPA and how many APs they've taken. Yeah. Like if that's in the header, like I'm gonna read. Because if it says like, hey, I got a 4.2 with 7 APs, I'm like, okay, well I know I can get you into school, so I better start reading. And I never would have said that elsewhere. But here, like that's the first thing for me because if I know that and the transcript's there, like that's pretty important.
Education all day. When someone sends you a video, what are you looking for? A recruiting video? Yeah,
I mean, like I want to see if it's their swing. I want to see their hand speed. I want to see like their bat path and like see is there looseness in the hands. Like what does that look like? Probably like on a side view like BP first, and then if they could put like game swings in, great. If it's an infielder, I really want to see defensive actions. So I'd like to see some ground balls where like I could see a field, and then if you want to go ahead and put a couple highlight plays in there from the game, fine. But I think whatever it is you're doing, like try to show, like if you're a pitcher, try to show bullpen video kind of up close where you can see it. Then you can put game stuff in. If it's a hitter, try to put like some BP swings in so you can see the moves and stuff like that. Same thing defensively. And then go ahead and put the game tape on the back end. But a lot of times when you get game tape from guys and it's like grainy, it's like in the fifth row, you can't really see, you can't even see the pitch, you're trying to see what's going on. Yeah. It's like, so like, when someone says only game tape, you're like, I can't make heads or tails of this. But if it's something where it's closer, you can actually see what they're doing, then you want to put the game tape, great. That's probably the best bet.
So what type of exit velocity, throwing velocity, and 60-yard dash times do you typically look for?
I mean, look, like we're trying to win a national championship.
Yeah, of course.
The highest caliber we can, right? So like guys that are throwing 90 plus, and 6.5 60s and all that. But it 100 mile an hour plus exit velos. But look, at the end of the day, like there's a lot of guys out there that have tools and they can't play the game.
Yep. Agreed.
So the tools are great. Like obviously I'm not gonna not want a guy with tools, right? But like at the end of the day, like you gotta watch guys play the game, right? I've coached guys that can't run, but they hit 350. Like, I'll take them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've coached guys that don't throw hard, but they get outs. Like, I like outs, you know? So, like, you got to watch guys play the game, and you got to really evaluate them. I don't think that I think, you know, what baseball coaches did an amazing job of historically was evaluations. And the world we're in right now, there's so few true evaluations. Like people don't really sit on players anymore and like really watch players because you don't really have the time. Like it's like everyone's pulling the trigger quick, and you know everybody's transferring here, there, everywhere. Like so everything's fast forwarded, you know, and you know you really want to figure out if a guy can hit. Like go watch him play 10 games. And nowadays we don't really have an opportunity to do that. So I think you lose a lot of your evaluation skills, your projection skills, and the best scouts are the people that really trust their gut. They trust their intuition. They can tie it back to like a player they saw previously. They can make really good comps, and they have really good recall. So I still love evaluating players. I love it. And I didn't really get to do that much this summer because I was here trying to like visit a kid every day. And one of the things I'm really looking forward to next summer is just like going down, sitting at a game and hunkering down and like watching a guy play. Like, cause that's one of my favorite things to do.
I love doing that. It's so fun to see the skills. What about intangibles? Like what character traits do you look for when you're recruiting players?
Body language is a big one for me. Like I want to see how they respond to things. I look at how they interact in the dugout. If guys don't run hard 90s, like I'm out.
Yep.
Like if guys aren't running hard 90s, like if I got to tell you to run a hard 90, like I don't really need to recruit you. You know what I mean? Like I've always been like the dirtbag, like, you know, like love Dennis Rodman, love the bad boys, love guys that are laying out for loose balls, love the enforcers in hockey. Like I like the guys that can like get hit by a pitch and get down to first quick and steal second, third. Like my MO in sports is like the underdog scrapper. Like that's what I love. I want aggressiveness. I want fire. So when guys are like Cadillacing and dogging it, I'm just like, bro, I ain't got time for you. Like you and I just don't line. You know what I mean? I want dudes that like have a chip, you know?
I love a chip on the shoulder. You got a boulder on the rock.
Yeah.
You talked about this a little bit, but lastly, for the recruiting speed round, the academics in the process, could you give more guidance on test scores, GPA, and what?
Yeah, so generally, like the school here is looking for like 1550, 1600s for real.
Yeah,
like that's crazy.
1600 is perfect for the new listeners out there. It's pretty incredible.
But like for baseball, we're looking like 1250 plus. I have a couple like little bit of leeway on some guys below that.
Is it like an average that you have?
No. So 1250 is pretty much our area, but like we can
get a couple people
right now. Currently, right now we're test optional, right? But like
it's going away, or
it's undecided. We should know here soon.
Okay.
So we're still trying to figure it out. But I'm preparing as though like I want those, so that way I don't have a guy with like a great, you know, a great transcript with a bunch of APs, and then he scores a 1030, and we're like, we can't do it. So I'm just trying to mitigate that.
Curious, speak on that. Would it be easier to get someone in with a 1500 SAT and lesser GPA, or a 4.5 out of 4 GPA and a 1000?
If they had the APs, the better transcript, because a lot of times when they look at the really high SAT and then not a great transcript, they're thinking the kid's lazy.
And they don't do well when they get on campus.
Yeah. So like now again, like a 1550, I'm going to be okay. You know, like I should get that guy in, you know, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like if you're in the 13s, but you have like a 3.2 and you haven't taken any APs, they're like, well, you're not really pushing yourself then. So here we really look for guys that want to take the academic rigor.
I love
APs, and more APs.
It's all about APs. You got to challenge yourself. Take more classes. Take them at subject. Let's talk about more the day in the life of a Duke athlete, a Duke baseball player. You know, we see guys are at the field right now. They're getting better. They've access to the facilities. What's like a typical day in the life when you're not playing a game look like?
Yeah, we're just, you know, playing ball all the time. You know, like, I mean, I think when you're going around campus and you're talking to the players today, like you should ask them that question.
We're really excited for that, yeah.
Yeah, but we have our lift 4 days a week, right? Like we're out here doing, you know, early work and stuff like that. As coaches, we just try to be accessible. Like if guys won't work, we want to be there to support them. You know, like one of our big things is like whenever somebody needs something, be there for them. You know, like we're not the coaches that mandate and tell people they have to be around. we're the guys that are around, and we want you to want to be around. If we have to drag you to the field, like, you're probably not the right guy for us. But if, like, you should be dragging us to the field, you know, and that's kind of the way it was with my dad growing up. Like, my dad would never say no when it came to playing ball, but I was always the one dragging him out. And so his gift was he never said no to hitting me some fungos or throwing me BP, never once, you know. But I'd always have to ask, and he'd always be reciprocating. And that's kind of how I do it in coaching, right? Like, we'll do whatever you want for it. We'll do whatever we can for you, but you got to ask and want to be around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you talk about some of the investments going into this incredible. This is a beautiful facility, by the way. Jack Combs Field. Please come out and check a game this season. It's going to be amazing. What are you doing to continually upgrade the facility? It sounds like you guys are going through some really exciting changes in the next couple months for next season.
Yeah, so we're, again, going to have some press releases on this in the coming days. I actually have to go to a meeting about this afterwards, but...
Exciting times to be a Duke baseball player.
So, like, phase 2 is funded, and we'll be breaking ground on it in the coming weeks.
Wow.
Next week or two. And we're hoping that finalizes, you know, next October. But that's going to be an indoor facility. 3 hitting lanes, traject, spin ball machine, a pitching lab, 2 weight racks with perch. So, like, a fully functional indoor facility, which we could use this preseason. But yeah, so it's got 4 tunnels in it. And then we have phase 3 and phase 4 coming off that we are actively funding, trying to fund and start campaigns to fund right now in our capital project. But that's going to include, like, locker rooms, coaches' offices, team meeting room, player lounge, equipment room, all attached over here. Next to that. So, and then the remainder of the stadium is phase 4. So it's quite a big project.
Talk about some of the selling points of being a Duke athlete, getting to go to some of the other sporting events as well, being a part of that. I saw you were shooting on the... Yeah. You're in front of a big crowd.
Yeah, thanks to Henry for that. I appreciate it.
That was awesome.
Threw me right in the fire over there. But yeah, so look, like, let's call it what it is. Like, basketball games are sick. Yeah. Like, I mean, the bottom
line.
That's
right there, right? That's
they're electric. You know, like, if you don't like going to the basketball games, then you don't have a pulse. Yeah. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, they're fire. Like, yeah. Everybody's like you'll see when you walk around campus, there's like 50, 60 kids in tents that have been sitting out for 6 weeks in this weather.
North Carolina Duke.
6 weeks they sit out there. It's madness. There's nothing like it in sports. Yeah. I don't know any other sporting event where somebody sits in a tent for 6 weeks to go watch one game. The passion in that room, in that building, is pretty cool. The football team's awesome. I'm a huge Manny Diaz fan. He's, like, been incredibly supportive since I've been here. He's always reaching out. He's a great dude. It was fun watching them win the ACC title this year.
That was awesome.
The lacrosse team here is legit. They've won a bunch of national championships. Got to know the assistant lacrosse coach. His kid and my kid are like besties. They're in the same class. He's a great dude. The women's lacrosse coach is full of fire. She's been awesome. You know, the soccer teams, men and women, this year were great. I think the coolest part about it, if you're going to school here, is, like, everything is kind of centered in this area that you'll see when you walk around, and all of our teams are good. Like, the women's went to the national championship game last year, Final Four this year. Men's soccer Sweet 16. The men's lacrosse team is, like, preseason top 5. They won 3 natties. You know, like, football just won the ACC. You know, basketball hasn't lost in, like, ever. You know what I mean? So like, it's pretty cool. You know, like, the softball team's awesome. The softball coach is great. Like, she fires me up every time I meet her. They went to a College World Series 2 years ago. They hosted a regional last year. Like, it's hard to find teams that aren't good here, to be honest with you. Like, and that's part of it. It's like, you want to hold up that standard, right? Because everybody else is dominating. So, like, you're like, all right, well, I can't be the weak link here, you know? Like, I gotta keep it rolling. So,
what do you do for your players for summer ball? How do you place them with programs? And
so I have a philosophy on this. I really believe that guys have to go if they're going to summer ball, they need to play. And I want to put them in leagues where they have the potential to be an all-star. That's very important to me. Because when they go, they got to play and they got to build confidence. So if you're going to the Cape and I'm sending you to the Cape, it means I think you can be an all-star. So go be an all-star. If I send you to the Perfect Game League and you're playing in Amsterdam, I'm sending you there because I think you could be an all-star. You know, like, if I send you to the NECBL and I send you to the Keene Swamp Bass, I'm sending you there because I think you could be an all-star. Coastal Plains, same thing. And so like everybody has like different like thresholds, and for the most part, we send our guys to Coastal Plains, NECBL, Cape, and Amsterdam, the Perfect Game League. Those are pretty much our spots. And I keep the same teams and the same contacts. Like I've been sending the guys to the same teams for over a decade, well, close to 20 years now. And I do that because usually when I send them guys, they're all-stars, because I believe in sending people where they should be all-stars. So they take my players because they're always good for them, you know, and each league's a little bit different, you know.
Yeah, there's a great leagues, and I love the passion about putting them in great positions to succeed. Do any the student athletes stay around here and train if they have an injury or whatnot? Or
yeah, so guys that are in MMS, then the Masters of Management program, guys, so our grad guys that are freshmen incoming, and guys that may have an injury or back. So generally speaking, we'll have anywhere from like 10 to 15 kids back on campus. The rest will be out playing. You know, they live with our strength coach in the off season in the summertime, try to get ahead in classes. And then the field's open. We're not allowed to work with them in the summer other than our strength coach. But like, I'll give them a throwing program or something to get ready for the fall, or the field will be open. They can come out and hit. And honestly, like we'll have them work a lot of our camps too, you know, so they can try to make some money and get them around the next wave of guys coming in, you know.
How many student athletes do you carry in the fall?
So this fall we had 43. We have 43. Well, we have 44 because we added a mid-year transfer. So we have 13 DSAs. That's how we're able to pull that off. So
what's a DSA?
Designated student athlete. So the NCAA gave a one-time waiver that allowed anyone that was on the DSA list to be able to be on the roster over the 34, and that carries with you wherever you transfer to or wherever you go. So the DSA thing is a really important tag, and it allows you to have a lot of leverage throughout your college career. You know,
that's awesome. I love how nuanced the rules are. You're incredible at keeping up. We're almost to the end here. We have a couple more questions we want to talk about, your legacy and your vision and your sales pitch to any Duke student athletes. So we're really excited about that. What do you want your legacy to be at Duke?
I mean, I want to build the best program in college baseball. Like, I talk about this all the time. I talk about this to the players. Like, if you don't see it and you don't believe it, then what are we doing? And for me, it's like, it's not just winning games. I want to win championships. I want to get guys drafted and have them play in the big leagues. But we also want to, you know, like I was telling you before, it's beyond baseball, right? So, like, we want to have CEOs. We want to have doctors and lawyers. And basically, like, I want the legacy of this place to be like, I went there and I dominated life. Whether it was, you know, I won an MVP award in the big leagues, or I won a Cy Young, or I won a World Series ring, or I won national championships. Like, our goal is to strive for the best at everything we do.
I love that. We believe in you, and we think a lot about, you know, what Tim Corbin has done at Vanderbilt. You know, before he was at Vanderbilt, it was not nearly the program it is today, and many consider the Vandy boys, you know, arguably the top program in college baseball. Duke is an even better academic program than Vanderbilt, and historically a better athletic program than Vanderbilt as well. And so we're rooting for you to be able to build something that rivals them and maybe surpasses them. So we're really rooting for you, and we love your passion. What message do you have for the Duke fans and Durham community with you coming in here?
We're going to compete and be aggressive and play hard. Like, it's the bottom line. Like, you know, I was talking about this with my kids on the way to school this morning. They were complaining about something. And I know what it was. We were like a hair late because I had to go to a function tonight, and I had to get my suit ready. And my son was freaking out because we were a little bit late. And I was like, you don't control that. You don't control that. Like, you got to stay with where you're at. Dad made you late. You didn't make yourself late, you know? And so for me, it's always about the controllables, and your effort, your energy, how you show up every day, your body language, those are controllables. And we're going to do that at the highest level, because bottom line, if they don't do that, I'm just not going to play them. Like, I'm not going to yell. I'm just like, you're not playing. You didn't run hard. You're not playing. You keep moving your feet in the box. You're not playing. Your body language is terrible when you're on the mound. Like, I mean, to me, that's the fabric of everything, is how you show up. And so we're going to control our controllables.
Absolutely. And so one final thought before we end it with on the subject traditional question, but if you were speaking to a future player and parent, what would you say to them right now? How would you sell them on coming to Duke baseball?
I've been saying this a lot today, but it's like, you're not just coming here for baseball, right? Like, we're trying to teach you the skills and the habits to be great in life. We're trying to help you be successful in all things. Like, we're going to talk about meditation and breathing and goal setting and journaling and resume building and job opportunities. We're going to push you in the classroom. We're going to have you work hard. We're going to have you care about your diet. Like, we're gonna, you know, everything we do, it's holistic, right? Like, it's not just baseball. look, I'll leave you with this. This is what I would say. I said this a bunch, but, John Wooden was once interviewed and asked what his best job in coaching was. And he said his first year at UCLA, and they were 500. And the interviewer was like, what are you talking about? Like, you guys were 500. You won 11 national titles. He's like, yeah, but the year before we won like 2 games. And he's like, that team had more lawyers, doctors, senators than any other team I ever coached. That team was the fabric of our pyramid, or the foundation of our pyramid for success. And that team became our booster club and set the standard for all years moving forward. My goal was never to win the national championship. My goal was for each team to maximize their full potential. And so, like, I remember hearing that interview, I don't know, a decade ago, and I've watched it like 10 times. And I always think about that. Like, sometimes your best coaching jobs aren't the years you win a natty. Sometimes it's the years you get the most out of everybody and you help impact their life for the long run. Make no mistake about it. We want to win national championships. But, like, you don't control the outcome. You only control what you're doing day to day in your process and how you go about it. So that's what we're going to do. And that's why you come here. But if you want it to be transactional by nature, you want to hear a bunch of things that aren't true, then don't come here. But if you want the truth and you want honesty and you want high-level effort, that's who we're going to be.
I wish I could be a Duke Blue Devil. I want to get an offer right now. And so the way we end this podcast, always I feel like we'll have fun with this, is, we believe teachers and coaches are the heroes of society. And so we always love to say, if you were to thank one of your teachers or coaches, you want to give them a shout out on the pod, who would it be? And say thank you to them. Moment of gratitude.
Yeah. I have so many coaches that I'd like to thank. Jason King, for one, for sure. My college coach, Scotty Loazzo, who's working with me right now. And even guys I coach with, like Ed Blankmeyer. But I had some high school coaches that were impactful too. I had a Little League coach named Eddie Coulomb that was pretty awesome. He had me in basketball too. I'll tell you the Eddie Coulomb thing, right? So when I was playing Little League baseball, he was the president of the league and he had these huge championship trophies. He really cared about winning. And I don't think enough people care about winning anymore, not because of the result, but like what you have to do to be a winner. And he hit me with this, and I was like 11. And he's like, hey, how'd you do today? I'm like, I went 1 for 3. He goes, nobody cares how you did. If I ask you how you did, I want to know if you won or lost. He's like, so in any sport you're playing, anything you're doing in life, don't ever tell anybody how you did. Tell them how your team did. I was 11, and I never forgot it. And I live by that. You know what I mean? So shout out to Coach Coulomb, Big Eddie, the president of Goffstown Little League in 1996.
Hey, shout out. There's a good retro factory there. And thank you so much. We're so excited to be able to root for this year. We're all the biggest Duke Blue Devil fans now. Where can we find you on socials for the fans?
I don't even know. My Coach Moose 31 is on Instagram. I think it's the same on Twitter. A lot of the stuff's Coach Moose 31. A disclaimer out there. A lot of people think that Moose Tracks Media is my personal account. It's actually not. One of my friends is doing it, and I'm thankful that he is. But there's a lot of stuff there. That's not my personal account. But yeah, Coach Moose 31, I think, is Instagram, and I think it's the same on Twitter as well.
Awesome. Well, hey, go Blue Devils. Thank you so much for your time today. And hey, another incredible episode of On the Subject. You know where to find us. Please click like, comment, subscribe. We're really trying to get most of the fans to YouTube and Spotify. Thank you again for following us. And we're so excited to have more incredible guests like we had with Coach today.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.